Hold up. Hey yo, Tama Beats, let's get him something new to ride to. Welcome to the Pursuit of Passion podcast with K. Noel. So take a seat and listen. Listen to the practical words, encouraging words that are here to help you get over the hump in your life, cause you are in pursuit of your passion. Yeah, I see you, and I present to ya the Pursuit of Passion with K. Noel.
Pursuit of passion, pursuit of passion. You gotta have it, you gotta have it. Yeah, pursuit of passion, pursuit of passion. Yeah, you gotta have it, you gotta have it. Yeah, pursuit of passion, you gotta have it. Gotta keep on stacking, keep on climbing. You be there no time, you wanna get soft. You be there no time. You be there no time.
Pursuit of your passion, yeah. Pursuit of your passion, yeah. Pursuit of your passion, yeah. I see you, I see you. Pursuit of your passion, yeah. Pursuit of your passion, yeah. Pursuit of your passion, yeah. I see you, I see you, I see you. What's going on, my family, my people? How y'all doing today? This is your boy, the Relentless Motivator, K. Noel. So I have another guest on this week. Gonna be talking about some stuff. Y'all pay attention because, especially for those writers out there, you're gonna love this episode. So I'm gonna let my guest introduce herself. So Miss LaNette, if you would, I'll let you do the honors.
Hello, everybody. My name is LaNette Kincaide. I am an author and also a writing coach. I am the word pusher. I push authors to write, publish, and sell their words. And so that's who I am in a nutshell. I'm a child of God. I'm God's daughter. And so I'm super excited to be here today.
Awesome. And we're glad to have you here today. So if you would tell me, how did you get into the field of writing?
Honestly, I always give credit to my mom. I know it's crazy, but I always loved writing. I've always loved it. I always loved, crazy stories that no one else liked, Macbeth, Shakespeare, just different parts of it. I was always in to those type of stories. And so because of that, I wanted to emulate that type of writing. I wanted to be that type of writer that I could always look up to. And so I've always been passionate about writing.
Wow, that's awesome. Now you got me on the Shakespeare, because I didn't pay attention much to Shakespeare until they came, I think when I was in high school, they came out with like the 90s version of Shakespeare. So
yeah.
Romeo and Juliet. So yeah, I was able to get into that one.
Yeah, I've always loved those type of stories. A lot of people, I think the interest behind it wasn't there because they really didn't understand it, right. Because they were so weird, the whole, the whole personality of it and things like that. But I was always into that, I wasn't there in those times, but I got it. Like, for whatever reason, I got it. I loved it. And I always wanted to read that type of work. I always, wanted to try to write that type of work. And I just always had a passion for writing. And I think that's, kind of what started it.
Wow, that's awesome to know. So since you have been on the journey of a writer, what are some things that you have learned?
Well, let me just say this. As a writer, I've learned a lot of things about myself. I didn't share this with you, but I want to say about 8 years ago, and this is also what has been, that have brought my passion to writing. One of the things that happened to me 8 years ago, I got really, really sick, like really sick, where I had to have multiple surgeries. And one of the things that was the outcome of that is I had a short-term memory loss, which I had to relearn how to read and write. And I want to say that, thinking about it now, I know my writing was just absolutely horrible. And that was my drive and my push to continue to write. So doing what I do now, one of the things that I lean heavily on, because growing up, I never fit in. Like I never fit in. As a writer, I still am at that place where I never fit in. But now, instead of suppressing that and still, trying to be in the circles that may be popular or maybe, glam, they look glam from the outside. I just had to tap into the fact that I have a special calling on my life. And that special calling requires me to be a little different. It may require me to be separate to some degree. But I had to tap into that instead of suppressing. I was very embarrassed by that at some point, because I was just like, oh my goodness, I don't match, I don't fit in. My personality is bubbly, is different, it's hard to understand. And instead of always having to explain myself and be this person that I was just like, okay, you know what, God, I'm just gonna do this thing your way. I know that you have a purpose over my life. Let me just tap into that. And that's one of the things that I learned on the journey.
Okay, so with all that you said, I want to help somebody right now. What would you say to that person who was where you were, where they felt like they didn't fit, they feel like they don't fit in, and because of that, they're still trying to find themselves, but that person that they're trying to find is right there. Mm-hmm. What would you say to that person?
I want to say this to everyone. Tap into who you are. Be authentic. Trust me when I tell you your tribe is out there. Trust me when I tell you the people, your family members. And when I say family members, I actually don't even mean blood family. I mean the tribe that's out there waiting on you to use your voice and be bold in your voice. They're out there waiting for you. But the sad part is, they'll never find you until you come to grips with who you are. The one thing that I say, I know that some of the journeys and the things that God has us on the path, sometimes it's not as popular as we'd like for it to be. Think about that for a second. Writing is not popular at all, but that was God's calling over my life. Okay, it wasn't popular, but that's what God wanted me to do. So I had to tap into that. So for that person that's out there and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know, what my plans, what my plans are, what I should be doing or anything like that. Stop suppressing who you are and just go on the path that God would require you to be on, and tap into the things that you may not like about yourself. One of the things that I struggled with growing up is I always had big lips. Like it was like God put adult lips on a little girl. And I was just so ashamed of that. But the main thing is God gave me big lips as a little kid, gave me adult lips on a little kid because I had a big mouth, and that big mouth, I was supposed to use it towards his glory. You see how that changes? So back then, yeah, it was like, oh my God, why do I have these big lips? But God knew then. Jeremiah 29:11, God already knew the plans that he had for my life. So based on that, he was already giving me big lips back then in order to use them for his glory right now. So just tap into what God has for you, and don't be ashamed, and don't suppress the things that you feel is your weakness is actually your strength.
If I was to insert the praise break, that's where that praise break will be at right there.
Hey, what's up, fam? To all my business owners out there, do you need to get your business out to more eyes and ears? Do you have a book that you want to get into the hands of other people? Well, here's your opportunity. The Pursuit of Passion podcast is looking to partner with you. We are offering advertising opportunities, so hit us up today. All serious inquiries can email us at podcast@relentlessmotivationalgroup.com. And remember, all things motivate. Goals. How many goals have you set up for yourself where you gave up because it was too hard? How many times did you feel you weren't good enough because the journey seems tedious? I too felt this way, but then things changed. I realized I had to change how I think. I had to change who I was. I had to be relentless. I am Noel. I want to tell you about my book, Be Relentless. It teaches how to understand your roar, your design path, hitting your mark, and much more. Purchase your copy of Be Relentless today at www.relentlessmotivationalgroup.com. Relentless.com is not just another book, it's a movement. So are you ready to be relentless?
So you're a writing coach.
I am.
Can you explain to everybody exactly what a writing coach is?
Well, let me just say this. A writing coach is no different than an actual coach that you would see on a football field. The main thing is we come up with plans, we come up with a discipline, I provide structure. Same thing as a coach on the field. You can't go out on the field and just do whatever you want to do, right? No one would ever win. My goal is to help people to get to the finish line of either writing their book, writing their writing projects. A lot of people feel that I only handle and help people with writing books, but I actually help with multiple writing projects. The main thing that I provide is structure and discipline. And that's what a lot of people do not have when they are writing. I would also like to call myself the midwife of the writing field, only because it's a lot of times that people, they know that a book is inside of them, but they don't know how to deliver it. They don't know how to get that out of their system. And one of the things that I focus on as well is not just writing the book and not just publishing the book, but just being able to sell the book. Because obviously you can't sell to yourself if you don't have any customers, you don't have anyone that's interested in your book, then it's kind of pointless. It doesn't get the word out like you want it to. So those are the goals that I focus on as a writing coach, and that's what we do. That's what I do.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm sure you have learned some lessons along your journey.
Mm-hmm.
How do you use those lessons to help other people?
The main thing, and I have to be totally honest, this is very different. I got to give you a little bit of background on me, okay? So I have always been a serial entrepreneur. Let me just say that, okay? And I'm going somewhere with this story. So the first thing I want to say is making money has never been an issue for me. I'm not saying that to brag, but I am saying that if it's easy to come to you, it's also easy to go. So one of the things that I had to learn is, what's going to make this business that I'm in now as a writing coach, as an actual writing professional, different than the other businesses that I've done. I've done so many other businesses before. So what makes this business different? One of the things that I had to learn is, okay, who's actually the head of this business? And this is a real true story. I actually, in the other businesses that I was in, I was in newspapers, I was in magazines, got a lot of, publicity with those businesses. But the ultimate thing is being able to shift, knowing when to shift, knowing when to pivot. When the times change, you have to change with the times, okay? So that was one of the things that I learned. But then the main thing is, who's over the business? Who makes the decisions? So in this particular business, what's different than my other businesses is I had to put God first.
Wow. Okay, so you said you was a serial entrepreneur.
Yes.
So on that journey, how did you know that this was the one? This was it?
This was actually a calling from God, honestly. It's no different than being called to be a pastor or a preacher or a minister or anything in the ministerial field. The only difference with this is my pulpit is different. So it's still a ministry for me. I still implement scriptures when I'm talking to my clients. I let people know up front that I'm a Christian businesswoman, a business entrepreneur. I let people know that up front. That way, if they say, I don't want to support a Christian business, I don't want to be involved with a Christian woman, you can step. You already know it at the gate that you don't have to do business with me. That was one of the things that I failed at. If I can just say any type of mistakes and failures that I made in my previous businesses, that was one of my mistakes, because honestly, because I didn't fit in in my previous businesses, and because I didn't know who I was, I didn't know my calling, didn't know anything about me, I suppressed the fact of loving God. I suppressed the fact of being a Christian. So I didn't put that out in the forefront. With this particular business, because it is my calling, I want people to know that this is how I do business, and I do my business based on God being the head. He is my CEO.
Wow. Okay. I love it. I absolutely love it. So could you tell us some of the services you provide?
So one of the services that I have, and let me just say this, I don't work with everybody. I do want to put that out there. One of the things that I learned in this particular business in regards to my other businesses, in the other business, it was all about the hustle. Okay. This business is not a hustle. So with that being said, I do 15-minute consultations. My 15-minute consultations is basically for me to know if I'm able to do the business with you the way God would have me to do it, and if I am a good fit for the person that I am working with. So I first have to do the 15-minute consultations. The services that I offer is basically just ushering people into being able to write a book. So I host classes on book writing, the full book writing process, how to get them from point A to point B. And then I also have another part of my business where I teach people the selling part of their business, because I want them to not get to the finish line of writing a book and no one's there to cheer them on, which is a very big deal for me. And so really, if I can just be honest, I feel that God allowed me to be able to make money and see the process of making money in order to be able to merge the two together.
Okay. And I love what you're saying about, you're no longer doing the hustle. Because it, in the society that we live in now, everybody is about the hustle.
Right.
They all about the dollar bill instead of it. And don't get me wrong, we all got to make money.
Right.
But it's the integrity into it too.
Exactly. Because at some point, you have to have your goals and your values in place. And so the one thing about it for me, like I said, it's not about the money. I turn down money when it doesn't fit what God has for me, because one of the promises of calling me into this, what I do as a writing coach, as an author, is I would never be broke. That's God's promise to me. That's in his word, and that's his verbal promise to me. Right. So because of that, I don't have to stoop down. I don't have to stoop down to do things that is outside of his will for me.
And to me, that goes to show how much you love what you do, because
absolutely,
I ask people sometimes, when it comes to your purpose, can you do what you love for free? Not saying that you're going to do it for free,
right?
But when you're chasing that dollar, you're taking everything, whether you think you can help them or not. And sometimes, doggone well, you can't help them, but I'm just going to take your money anyway.
Right. And
God
the
can't
one
bless
thing,
you like that.
Let me just say something about the freeness. Can I just say that the tools that you need for the purpose that God has for your life, you've already done the training for it in some facet of your life. Even think about what you do right now with this podcast. In some kind of shape, form, or facet, you've done this before for free, some parts of it, without even blinking. Okay. And that's the same thing on my journey and on my mission. Everything the training that I've needed, the tools that I needed, the way that, sometimes we feel like we're not capable, but we've already done what God has called us to do in many facets for free. Okay. Yes. And it's only because God was taking us on that journey. We didn't know the plans that he had for us, but he already knew the plans for us. So, and if I can go back into my background, I've worked for churches, I've worked for nonprofit organizations, I've worked for friends, all free, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it was God training me, grooming me, getting me ready for my true purpose.
Right. Absolutely. And now we see the blessings behind
Absolutely.
everything that you have done.
Yes.
That is an incredible story.
Thank you.
So what would you say to someone, they know they have this book in them and it's like they're struggling with getting that book out, or they have that self-doubt in their head, all kind of stuff, you have all that kind of stuff going on in your head. What would you say to that person?
I would actually say two things to them. One, remember why the story is relevant. Why is it important? Okay. Give you a little background on me, which, I feel like we're family now, so I can do that. But one of the things that I write about true stories. I write about the broken relationships and how I ended up in those type of relationships. So I talk about my family's background. But one of the things that I talk about is my experience being a victim of domestic violence. That's an important story. Okay. So I want people to understand that when you're talking about something that can save someone's life, like domestic violence, sexual abuse, molestation, alcoholism, things that can literally save someone's life, mental illness, suicide attempts, those are not stories that can stay in you for 10 years. Think about all the people that we would lose if we didn't put out that information. So one thing you have to understand about your writing is time sensitive. You have to get that information out as soon as possible. The other thing is, remember who you're writing to. Who is your story relevant to? Who is your story going to benefit? And I bring that up, the second part about who you're writing to. I only bring that up because that's what a lot of authors struggle with. They're so focused on the point of getting from point A to point B, because society tells us, hey, get the book out, get the book out, get the book out. And then they get the book out and they have no customers waiting for them at the end of that process. And then, outside of family members and friends, okay? And then they don't know exactly who they should be marketing this book to, because that's the ultimate goal, to not only write the book, but who is your book relevant to? Who's going to actually benefit from your book? So those are the things that I would tell anybody that's struggling to write a book at this time.
Wow, that is awesome. You said some stuff to help me, so
Absolutely. And I'm here for it. I know we only got an hour, but yeah, I'm absolutely here, because that's the gear that I always try to shift authors in. Don't just focus on just writing the book, because ultimately if we think about, I'm in my mid 40s, I don't want to tell my age, but let's say, for instance, if I just decided to write my life story, I could be writing all day. So the writing part is not as hard as people think, okay? Right. It's the part of just, one, getting started, and two, know who you're writing to, and then target to those people that you're writing to.
Awesome. So tell me something. Mm-hmm. What is the most exciting thing for you when it comes to helping others on the writing journey?
Seeing their success stories. I'm not gonna lie, I get so hyped when people include my name on social media, when I happen to see Writing Coach OK on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. I love seeing their success stories. And when I say God is pleased, I'm also pleased, because it lets me know that I've done my job to the fullest. And so I would have to say, I love seeing the success stories. I love, for example, I just want to share this. I had one of my students that recently took my monetizing class. I was able to gloat on them. They sold over 200 books in one weekend. Okay. And that made me happy. I was pleased for that, because I'm like, okay, putting in the connections and getting the work done. And that's what I like to see. I don't like to see, if I can feel during our 15-minute consultation that you want this book, but you're really not going to work for the book. or you're not going to work through the business side of the process, I don't really want to waste our time, the person's time, my client, potential client's time, and I don't want to waste my time either. I want to see immediate action. I want to see immediate success stories. Otherwise, what was it all for? Yeah. So that's what I'm into. I love seeing that. I'm sorry, I'm petty, but I love it.
We now interrupt your regularly scheduled program for a very special announcement. Midweek blues holding you back? Got a bad case of the Wednesdays? Well, check out the No Wednesday podcast with Dr. C. Emmanuel Little, where no Wednesday formed against us shall prosper is the mantra. It's the absolute best variety show, founded on self-care but featuring a little humor, a little music, a lot of information, and most of all, you. No Wednesday is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and most other podcast platforms. Follow the show at No Wednesday on Instagram and Twitter, and use the hashtag No Wednesday to follow the conversation. Enjoy the show and be easy.
Toma on the beat.
Hey, what's up, fam? Yo, check this out. If you need music for your next album, your podcast, or maybe even your next video, your YouTube or whatever, I need you to check out my bro, Toma Beats. Hit him up today so he can set you up with dope music like what you hear in the background now. He also is the producer of the music you hear in the background for seasons 1 and 2 of Pursuit of Passion podcast. So check him out today on Instagram, Toma_Beats. That's TOMA_Beats. Or you can look him up on Facebook, Toma Beats. All right, let him know K Noel sent you. All right. All right, so let's talk about your books for a minute.
Okay.
Because you have 4 books?
4. I wrote 4 books. Yeah.
Awesome. So, how was the journey for you leading up to the releases of your book?
So I have to be honest. My first book, I really didn't know what I was doing. Words of Inspiration, 100 Days of Words, still out there on sale. But I do have to be honest. I didn't know the things that I'm teaching right now. I really wish I would have had, a coach to coach me through it and say, okay, LaNette, let's do this. Let's, step back a minute and watch this and make this happen. And, create this system in order to sell more or do more. And so it wasn't until the second time around that I finally got it. And that was Women Are Roses, which was a collaborative book that I done with 9 other beautiful women, where we told our stories about our life journey. One of the things that I shared in that book was about my domestic violence story. I not only shared my story, but I shared my mom's story, because that's where I actually came to grips with why I accepted being a domestic violence victim. And so that book became a #1 bestseller on Amazon in 4 different countries. And so I started learning that I had to be intentional and not hopeful. The first time with my first book, I was more so hopeful, just putting it out there, putting the cover out there every day, making little short, TikTok videos. Hey, I got 4 books, I got this, I got that, And I really didn't know how to effectively market a book. If I can be honest, my first book was an epic fail. But the second time I learned to be intentional and not hopeful. And I think a lot of authors, they do that. They're excited about the book, but now they don't really know how to market the book, where to market the book, who to market the book to. And so they're more so hopeful rather than intentional. And that's one of the concepts that I teach in my classes as well, is in order to teach authors and writers how to be intentional about their writing and not hopeful.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thank you.
I just want to highlight that those 4 countries.
Yeah. And you know what? even with that opportunity, it really wasn't about the book, if I can be honest. The book, one of the books that I wrote just because I learned how to write and publish, okay? But one of the books I wrote because I thought about my grandmother. My mom got sick at the age of 11. And so I then became my grandmother's baby. So my grandmother had to take care of me. And one of the things that I realized about, being with my great grandmother, being with my grandmother is like, oh my goodness, I can't even Google them and see anything about them. And so when I became a grandmother, I'm like, I gotta have something out here for my grandson. And so one of the books that I wrote was called Am I a King? A book from Yaya, which is the name that I wanted them to call me as a grandmother, because I felt like I was too young to be an actual grandmother. And so I wrote that book to where that would be his first book.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have such an incredible story.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I just want to say that.
Thank you.
So what is your biggest passion? What drives you?
My passion is helping other people, but it's a downside to helping people. One of the things that I realized, because sometimes you don't know what type of help people need or what they're looking for. And so, whereas, let's say, for instance, I'm just going to use an analogy real quick because I use this a lot for people. But one of the things that, let's say, for instance, if I came to your house right now and I come in and I'm like, oh my goodness, let me get you more pictures on the wall. Let me get you a new couch. Let me get you a new bed. Let me get you this, and that may not be what you need. All you may need is a new broom and a dustpan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, sometimes my vision for people is a lot larger for their vision. That's basically why I made that analogy. And so I absolutely am passionate about helping people. But I have now had to step back and look at their vision through their eyes and understand that, okay, their vision is a lot smaller than what I had for them. I can definitely get them there. And so that's my passion.
So how did you learn to do that? To see the vision through their eyes? Honestly,
because for one thing, and on looking at it from a business side of it, my goal was to be a social worker. Honestly, that was my calling for my life. And so I'm gonna tell you this story because this is actually a true story. As a social worker, I worked with Catholic Charities in Fort Worth, Texas as an internship. When I went into the home, it had nothing. Young lady there, 3 children. And I'm like, oh, I'm bringing this lady, bringing my supervisor at the time. I'm bringing her back a whole list of what this household needs. Then they send an actual hired a caseworker back. And the only thing that she had on her list was food. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You know what I mean? Like, why is her list so much smaller than my list? You want to know why? Because she listened to the client. I didn't hear the client. I didn't know their client's needs. And it's only because I went in with my own interpretation of what I felt the client need rather than what they said they needed.
Wow.
Sometimes we miss out. That's a whole testimony right there. That's like that's a whole sermon by itself. But after, growth and development, prayer, fasting, all of that is how you actually learn how to do your job better. Because you don't get better overnight. And keep in mind that God already knows. When he calls you for a certain position, he already knows. Okay, LaNette is ignorant. Okay, LaNette got a bad attitude. Okay, LaNette, you know what I mean? God already knows those things about it. I'm just using those as examples, okay? But God already knows your bad points. He already knows your weaknesses, okay? but he's still using it for his glory. Still.
Wow.
So it just comes with, just praying and fasting and listening to God.
Wow, I love it. So tell us about the upcoming events you have going on.
I wouldn't say upcoming events. I would say more so upcoming trainings or, my trainings go on based on the clients, as you know. One of the things that I have implemented is the short-term version of my longer programs that I offer. I offer, classes that goes on for 12 weeks. One of them teaches you the writing side, where you learn everything about writing, how to write, what you should be publishing. Should it be an audiobook? Should it actually be, a regular hard copy book? Should it be an ebook? So I teach all of that in a 12-week process. One of the things that I've done recently is I actually had step 1 of, monetizing your ideas. I just recently had that April 3rd. And one of the things that I thought was fascinating about that particular class, because I didn't really put out a lot of information about that class, because I knew that God would send students there. I knew that God would send the people that actually needed to be a part of that class. And part of that class was just basically teaching you the business side of the class. Because keep in mind, I keep saying this, but I have to say it again, I don't want authors to get to the point where they have a book and the book is collecting dust. And I want people to also understand the purpose of their book. When I had my first book, I didn't understand the purpose of it. It's an amazing book. It has great information in that book, right? So I teach about your words being valuable. Now that you have your words in your hand, now what do you do with them? Who do you market to? And so the program that I have coming up is actually part 2 of part 1 of the monetizing your ideas. And it's basically teaching you the business side of writing.
Okay. All right.
Love it. So basically teaching you the systems. Now that you've learned who to market, where to market, now how do you put the systems in place in order to make your money?
Yes. Okay. So now we're going to end with this. I'm going to let you have the floor to say whatever you would like to say to the listeners to encourage them, to those writers out there.
Okay.
So I'll let you
I'd actually like to talk to both writers and entrepreneurs, with all due respect.
Okay, go ahead.
Because for me, it goes hand in hand. One of the things that I would like to say, especially in 2021, I need to put out there that everything that you've seen in the past in the business realm has changed. Things that we've been able to do in the business realm to market ourselves, to put ourselves out there, those things and those methods has changed. We have to change with the times. So whereas we were in the past able to just post pictures of ourselves multiple times a day, and that would normally draw our customers. Now we have to be more creative as entrepreneurs and as business owners. The other thing that I want to say is start investing in you. Start investing in you. A lot of times we want to make money, but we don't want to invest in ourselves. Now, what does that look like exactly? Sometimes that looks like, taking more classes, and I've taken tons of them, right? But if in order to get better at what you were called to be, what you were designed to be, even if you're saying to yourself, you know what, I don't want to do everything that LaNette is doing. I just want to be a writer. Take more classes for that. Get better at that. Okay. Everything that you strive to be in this season in 2021 and beyond, invest in yourself. If you're saying to yourself, and I just need to say this really, really briefly. God called me to be a writing coach and an author. However, because he also had me to do things in a spirit of excellence, meaning, just putting your best out there and not your worst. So that means even though I had to use my cell phone to make videos and, share the information that I needed to share on my social media pages, that also brought me clients. So just putting your best out there for people to be able to see the best of you. When people are able to see the best in you, they will realize that, oh, they have my best interests and heart as well. Don't give up on you. Don't give up on your dreams. Make your vision plain, write it down, and ask God for clarity of it. I had to do that multiple times, just go back to the drawing board, because one of the things that happened to me is I knew what God had told me. I knew what God had told me to do, but it wasn't popular at all. And so I wanted to do things that was popular, that I felt would get God's attention. And get other people's attention, get a broader audience, because I was sitting here looking at, and I'm talking about for social media now, I was looking at larger accounts with 10 and 15,000 people on it. And I'm like, I could be one of those people, God, like literally let me make it. And God was like, no, I need you to do this. And it wasn't popular at all. Like crickets were chirping when I first started in this writing game. But the one thing that I was told to do, what God told me to do, is to continue to do what he asked me to do, and to do it with 100% of my ability. And that's where the clients came. So invest in yourself, believe in yourself, stop hanging around people that tell you it doesn't make sense. And it's not going to amount to anything, because it will.
Yes.
It will.
All right. Look, I appreciate you for taking out the time to interview with me, talk with me. This has been an incredible episode.
Thank you so much.
I just want to thank you for not only just for this episode, but beyond this, because you have been a big help for me, with my ventures and what I'm doing as well. So
thank you so much. I appreciate that. And, thank you so much for this platform. I just want to encourage you to continue on with it, because the masses are coming. The things that you didn't believe in before, you're going to be overwhelmed about what God is going to do for this platform. So don't give up.
Yes. Thank you. Amen. All right, fam. So you already know the drill. Whatever time of the day you're listening to this, you all have a good evening, a good morning, a good night, and leave no days left behind. Make the best of each day, and we are out. Thanks for joining us this week on the Pursuit of Passion podcast with K. Noel. Make sure to visit our website at www.relentlessmotivationalgroup.com to purchase books by K. Noel and Relentless Wear. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. Both handler names are RelentlessMG1. And also, check us out on Facebook at Relentless Motivational Group. Also, join the Relentless Texting Community today by texting Relentless to 404-962-0730. Be sure to subscribe now to the Pursuit of Passion podcast with K. Noel to catch a new episode every Thursday. And don't forget to leave a 5-star rating. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and a ton of other podcast platforms. If you would like to look us up on Anchor, that would be anchor.fm/The Pursuit of Passion. If you would like to send a donation, you can do so on our website or on our Anchor page. Last but not least, always remember that all things motivate.